Oh man, how is it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. It's a beautiful day, and I'm kind of pissed. Not really. I was pissed. Now I just got to rant to the camera, right? Anyways, let's get into it. Before we forget to do this, the most important part of this video is unofficially brought to you by the MXPX song, Let's Ride. You know, it's a few years old. It's some newer MXPX. You know, we're not going too far back in their catalog, just I think 1 or 2 albums ago. But it really is, it's phenomenal. It's great. You hear it once, it's going to be stuck in your head for days. I'm telling you. Anyways, linked up in the card here or here. I never know what side of the camera screen or the screen I'm supposed to point to for this, but it's up there somewhere. Check it out when you got a moment. So a video or two ago, we talked about being honest. And part of being honest that honestly deserves its own video is just owning your shit, owning your flaws, owning your mistakes, owning your actions. And there is a serious epidemic of people not taking any accountability for their actions. And again, we talked about accountability recently too. But owning your shit is like a whole other area, a whole other issue. So there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I will not judge anybody for making a mistake. The problem then becomes when you make a mistake, but you're not willing to make it right. That's an issue. When you make a mistake, if you mess up, if you break something, if you create some sort of an error, do what you can to make it right. That's step one. When you refuse to do anything to make it right or to fix the issue, now there's a problem. What's even worse is if you make a mistake and then you blame other people for that mistake. You made the mistake, but you won't own up to it, and you blame it on somebody else. You making a mistake and not owning up to it is a problem in and of itself. You making a mistake and not owning up to it is pathetic. Like, that's just, especially, and perhaps this is where I get in trouble, I really don't think, though, that you can be considered a good man by any metric if you're making mistakes and not owning up to those mistakes and admitting those mistakes. That's pathetic. What's inexcusable is when you make a mistake and you don't own up to it and you blame somebody else for that mistake. Lying, like blatantly lying. That is just inexcusable. That is childish behavior. And then I guess you can hit the trifecta of bullshit. And that is, you make the mistake, you don't own up to it, you're not going to do anything to make it right, and you blame somebody else for it. What kind of person are you at that point? What kind of man are you? How do you expect anybody to want to ever be associating with you at that point? Like, that is wild. But the problem is that there are a ton of people who are like that. And what's even worse is that a lot of people who complain about folks like that are doing that exact thing. I guess they're a controversial figure, right? But Jordan Peterson, one of his rules for life is to tell the truth, or at least don't lie. And I think that's a great, I mean, again, we did a whole video all about honesty. I think that's a great rule for your life. Great way to live. I know there's like all quotes lead back to Abraham Lincoln, but you know, I believe it was Lincoln that said, you know, if you never tell a lie, you never have to remember anything. You know, the burden of remembering a lie and living a lie and always being worried does somebody know about my lie is way worse than the burden of saying, yeah, here's the mistake I made. Here's where I messed up. But I know it's kind of just ranting at this point, but there are so many people who will just make a mistake, blame everybody else, and then expect everybody else to fix the mistake for them. And that is just absolutely wild to me. I mean, as a man, and I say this because, 1, I'm a guy, and 2, I care about this stuff, and 3, because most of the people who watch YouTube are male, so a majority of the people who watch my videos are also male. But how on earth could you sit there, claim to be any amount of a good man, or be a man worthy of other men's time or of women's time or whoever, and not be able to or willing to own up to your mistakes and make the things right when you make those mistakes. I don't know. Guys, I really don't have any advice on this besides don't be a sack of shit, I guess. Like, that's the only advice I got on it. But if you say something in a public forum, well, there are consequences to that sometimes. And I'm not talking about cancel culture versus consequence culture. I'm not talking about that. Just saying that, you know, if you say something in a public forum and somebody calls you out for that, well, better own up to it. Like, yeah, I did. And obviously it is different, you know, if you say something in confidence to a friend or, you know, to an acquaintance, you know, and you know, hey, this is off the record, you know, I don't want this public. That's different. But if you're willing to complain about something or say something publicly, and then you're mad when people know what you said or what you did, what is that? If you borrow a friend's vehicle and it comes back and there's a dent in it and it's scratched, something's wrong with the vehicle, flat tire, right? They'll say, you knew about it. You definitely knew that you blew that tire. You definitely backed into the pole, and that's why there's a dent in the back. But you're like, no, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. No, I didn't do that. Why aren't you owning up to that? What kind of friend are you? What kind of person are you at that point? Some people be like, no, that must have been your wife. They must have been the one who did that and didn't tell you. Now you've gone from like good man to kind of a pathetic man to just bottom of the barrel. And honestly, folks, here's the thing. Here's the honest truth. All of these videos, when we talk about these topics, it's because I've been that person before. And it's appalling. Absolutely appalling, disgusting, despicable, inexcusable. I only use those words because it's like, hey, this is what I think about myself at that time. Like, looking back on them, like, this is how I see it. Not just sitting here judging everybody else and judging my former self of who I used to be. You know, I sit there and I look back and I used to be that guy who wouldn't own up to the shit, who wasn't upstanding and honest, who would blame other people for the mistakes I made because at least they can deal with the consequences. At least I don't have them. It wasn't even that terribly long ago. I mean, we're talking within 6 years of being that person. And I tell you that to, one, again, reiterate that I'm not just sitting here on my high horse yelling at everybody and talking shit. I'm saying all of that because it shows that you can change. Everybody is capable of change. You are not stagnant as to who you were 1 day ago, 1 year ago. You are malleable. The question is, will you allow the opposition, other people who do not have your best interests and who are a piss poor influence on you, will you allow them to mold you, or will you mold yourself? You're going to change. I know people don't like to think of that, but you're not going to be the same person you are now 5-10 years from now. There'll be a lot about you that's the same, but it's up to you whether or not you want to be in control of your own change, or if you're going to let everybody else control that for you. It's hard work to change. It's not easy. It's not easy to admit to your mistakes. It's not easy to pay the price of making those mistakes right. If, for example, you broke someone's car, and that's not what happened to me. I'm not like using this as an example to call anybody out, right? But if you backed into something and insurance isn't going to cover it for them, you should pay that price. Like, you know what, this sucks. This is going to maybe set me back on a goal of mine, but I made a mistake. They shouldn't have to pay for my mistake. Own up to it. Pay the price of making that right. It'll strengthen your friendships, your relationships. It'll strengthen your relationship with the man upstairs. It'll make you a better person. It'll strengthen your relationship with yourself. Guys, I have faith in you. I really do. If I didn't think that this was a message worth sharing, if I didn't think that you could change and actually become better than what you are right now, if I didn't actually think that about you, if I didn't think that these messages weren't things that, look, I changed, these are messages I heard that changed me. So it's my turn to pass those on to everybody else and to reinforce those lessons in myself. If these weren't things that I didn't honestly believe that you who are watching this video could change about yourself, that you can become the person that you want to be and that you know you are meant to be, if I honestly did not believe that, this would be a purely entertainment channel. We just talk about pop culture bullshit. But I know you're worth so much more than that. And I know you are capable of so much more than what you are currently giving yourself credit for. But no one is going to do that for you. You have to make that decision for yourself. The question is, will you? And that is entirely up to you, no one else. Well, folks, that's all that I got. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I know this one is a lot more of a rant than any advice or tips and tricks on how to do something in life. It's just much more of a rant, but honestly, I hope that it helped you out in some way. If it did, give me a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below. But until next time, have a great day.